Are they restricted?
No, they're in Bloomington. They live with us half the time, with their mom half the time.
Oh, I see. Okay. There's nothing better than being nothing.
We told them they have to go
Love it.
except
Yeah.
colleges. Like, they need-
Seriously?
they need to be part.
They're super tight then.
Yeah, they've spent less than 3 days of their life apart per night.
Thank you so
And he was like,
Not less than. They've spent.
much.
So anyway, what did you say?
Like you.
About if you.
If I forgot something that I wanted to mention, like, let me type it out.
Going to be an executive.
What is she doing?
Yeah.
Retired?
So I said, all right, I said, let's do what comes to mind.
As people have questions on the Zoom, I'll just
Oh.
go like that to let you guys know. You don't have to stop immediately.
how would you?
Yeah.
The chaos.
Okay, should we get started? Welcome, everyone. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Perry. We started these Mega Age interviews, 3 years ago now, roughly. And it's my favorite part of the month, every single month. You guys are in for a real treat today. Kim and I just met in person, literally right now for the first time ever. But I've admired her. I used to admire you from afar. And then last year, I bought one of her listings in Woodbury. So she's the reason I live in Woodbury now. So it's all your fault.
That you have a drive.
Yeah, I love my house every single day, except when I pay the mortgage every month. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Of course.
We'll talk about your numbers here in a second, but you are insanely busy. And your time is valuable. So if you've never been here before, this is a very casual environment. I'm going to ask her a bunch of questions. You guys ask questions. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be out of here right on the nose at noon. That clock's a little fast, so we'll keep track here. My goal is for you to walk out of here and have at least one thing you can implement by the end of the week. Okay? I didn't share that with you, but I'm going to take serious notes. The reason I started doing these was because during COVID, I'd show up. There wasn't a ton on the training calendar, and I literally wanted to create an event that you could not miss every single month. And I always say to the guests, I don't care if there's 100 people in the room or there's just me and you. I'm going to take a ton of notes because I'm here selfishly to learn from you. This will be on YouTube and live forever. So, thousands of people will see this moving forward. So at the same time, we don't care what you say. So, it's pretty unscripted. But so you've been the #1 solo agent with Keller Williams in our North Central region for like 11 years, something like that. So if you don't know about our region, if you guys are new to Keller Williams, so our North Central region is Minnesota, Wisconsin, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The #1 solo agent, 11 years running. So I looked up your numbers, and you may or may not know exactly where you're at, but I know you're pretty detailed, so you probably do.
She
So-
knows. She knows.
So top associates within Keller Williams. So this is all associates in our region through October. 1.1 million in gross commissions, 72.8 units, 42.2 million in volume through the end of October.
Oh. Down this year.
It's down.
Well, so I also looked up your stats and broker metrics because I'm kind of a nerd, and you are the #1 agent in Woodbury by 9 units year to date, and then your year to date units year over year are exactly the same, but your volume is down by about 5 million, which is probably market driven. But you're consistently doing a ton of business, and ultimately, I guess. Again, the first question, how do you balance all of this? How do you do so much business? Because as I understand, it's just you, correct? And you have a family and you have kids and all that stuff. So I'm guessing you're not working 18 hours a week, but how do you do it?
The best thing that I ever did 8 years ago was I hired a full-time assistant. So I could get to 40 million on my own, 18 hours a day, 1:30 in the morning every day. And then eventually you're like, do I want a nervous breakdown or how do I make things better? So I hired a full-time assistant, and my full-time assistant got me from 40 to 62 million. So it's just a complete game changer. And it also gave me my life back. I mean, having your life and having that freedom. eventually you get to a point and you're like, you kind of get angry and you're like, this is nonstop. And then you have to say, this is what I created. This is what I wanted. But how do I make that balance? Assistant number one. And then really taking time for yourself, asking yourself some deep questions about what is going to make me happy every day? How do I serve myself? Because if I'm not happy, if I can't serve myself, I can't serve others and I can't serve clients. So giving back to yourself is essential.
And so, and again, we're gonna bounce around to, again, very informal. So you hired at 40 million. So how long ago was that?
About 8 years.
8 years. Wow. And that took you literally from 40 to 62 and now. there you go.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. So, before we dive too deep in that, so just give us the, how did you get in real estate? What'd you do prior? Just kind of the you from, your younger years on.
Yeah. So I always loved homes. As a little girl, I would decorate my room and loved homes. I was fortunate enough, in my early 20s to meet Cheryl Brenna from Charles Cut Homes. And she needed hostess to help at her models. And I said, I would love to do it. So that's how I started. And I got my real estate license at the same time. During that time, I met someone from Bear Path that came in and said, we're looking for a new salesperson at Bear Path. So that was my first jump in to real estate. I worked at Bear Path for a couple years. And then during that time, became pregnant and knew that I couldn't make that travel time anymore. So I met David Frosch of Coutinho Homes. And David hired me when they started Wedgwood Heights in Woodbury. And I worked for Coutinho Homes for 17 years. So it was really a building block, new construction, which I advise every agent to be open-minded to and consider new construction before they get into the existing market. And then we had the market crash and David fired probably 50 employees. There was just a few of us left. And he encouraged me to consider getting my license somewhere else. So maybe I could work with the existing market and the existing agents to build on the new construction side. I don't like change and I don't like going into things that I don't know. So I just kept pushing it off. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do the existing market. So typically when you're living through a crisis, what you don't know until you're past it is that it's the best thing that ever happened to you. And that crash was the best thing that ever happened because it brought me to KW. It brought me into the existing market. And here I sit today. So I'm grateful for that. You didn't know it at the time, but I was grateful for it.
Write that down. That's a huge lesson. We've all had crises. And when your worst day becomes your best day many years later, it's meant to go through. Wow. Wow. So obviously the new construction background. So in the beginning, again, we've been crushing it for 11 years plus. How did you build your business? Was it all through the new construction or what did that look like?
So I was grateful to have all those existing clients from the new construction world. So I built on that. Physically, I built in a neighborhood that I sold in Woodbury, in the Wedgwood community. And I sold probably 50% of those homes in the Heights. So when I went into the existing market, I just simply did a reach out, letting people know that I was selling both sides at that time before I fully went into the existing market. And I had neighbors and I had past clients that I sold for and started at a higher level. So I was fortunate because I sold luxury. So I got into luxury fairly easy and then just built from that. What I will tell you is branding is everything. When I went to Keller, the great thing Keller gave me the ability to do is put my name on that sign and brand myself. And most companies don't give you the ability to do that. So there were many people that I know that said, Kim, did you open up your own real estate business? What's going on? I mean, they really thought that I did. And that's kind of how the word traveled. So I built from that and I branded myself in the best way that I could and got in front of people through advertising.
So, and if you drive around Woodbury now, you can't go like 3 miles without seeing your sign. I wave at you. So how did you do that? I mean, as far as building your branding, I mean, you got a cute little logo, all that. Did you hire someone to do that? Did you do that yourself? Or?
So I hired someone to do the logo, took professional photos, of course, hired someone to do the logo, to brand. I did that a couple times. In fact, I've recreated that a couple times throughout this process in my career. And then my husband is in printing. So I'm blessed to have a printer in my back pocket. And the one thing that I think is really important, whether it's a postcard, a full page ad magazine that I've had for 10 years in the Woodbury magazine, or my signs on the street, it's name recognition. Even if they take that postcard and they have it for 10 seconds and they throw it away, they remember that Kim sent another postcard. I've had clients put the postcard in front of me. They're like, 6 months ago, we got your postcard. So we figure we held on to it. You were the one to call. Or in my magazine, or someone will call me and say, we saw your sign down the street. So we figured you must be the agent to call in the neighborhood. So name recognition, wherever it can be, is everything. And it's branding. It doesn't have to cost a lot. It can start very small. And I know that's a couple questions ahead of what you're going to ask me and how some younger agents can start.
So what do you wish you would have known earlier in the beginning that you learned later?
Well, the one thing early on, I should have hired an assistant earlier. I really should have. That's key. I know it costs money, but you have to spend money to make money. So that's number one. And I would say you have to know and understand contracts. You have to know the business. You have to research. I remember on one of my earlier deals, there was another agent, Terry Sparks, sweet as pie. And I said, Terry, I'm not sure I have all the forms to put this together. Can you kind of tell me if I'm missing any of the forms? She goes, I'm really busy today. I don't have a lot of time. She told me a couple forms, but knowing your forms is essential. So you come across as a knowledgeable and professional agent. So I would say those are the two biggest things.
Nice. Any questions? My head's spinning. I have, a ton of them. Any questions?
I'd love to know if you were, since you know your numbers well, if you were close to not getting the top agent in any years, what you did to make sure that you got that position.
Are you competitive, Kim?
Very,
Very competitive.
very, very, very. The stress is staying number one, right?
Yeah.
Because it's my own personal goal. I go into every day saying I'm going to give it 150%. And whatever the end result is, the end result is. I don't go into any year saying I'm going to do 60 million. I visualize things day by day, and I give it. I put my best foot forward, and I think that's what everyone has to do. I think there's ways that you can become over obsessed with things, and that can cloud you throughout time. I think you just you have to know your daily procedure and what you do and how you do it best. There may have been times, but I think recognizing that I'm a single agent, and sometimes I think people like to group me with maybe a team, or if someone has a couple people that are working under them. So I'm always at the end of the year texting Ann, where am I? And please tell me I can promote myself as number one again.
Or like, did you ever sell a personal home that you could make sure you?
No, good question.
That's a good
No.
idea.
That's a good idea. I'll remember that if it happens.
Well, we did just move, right?
Yeah,
We're off the-
yeah.
There you go.
What, so again, as I started this, like a lot of us are like, how do you do this? This is amazing. So what's your daily routine? What's your schedule? Like, walk us through what a typical day in the, in your world looks like.
So morning routine is critical, essential, and there is no wavering on that for me. I will not have an appointment before 10 a.m. Won't do it. You'd have to be really special for me to meet you at 9 or 9:30. So I'll wake up anywhere between 6 and 6:30. My alarm goes off at 7, just in the event that I don't, but I usually always do. I will listen to a podcast every morning for 45 minutes to an hour. So it's my way to relax and gain wisdom. Knowledge is power. So whether it's Jay Shetty, Oprah Winfrey, Rich Roll, I mean, there are so many that I love. There's so many out there. And I listen to them, and then make my bed every morning. It's simply an accomplishment. And then I crank my tunes and I listen to music while I'm doing that process. And then I work out every morning, 40 minutes to an hour. And then my day starts. If I don't have that, I'm not energized. I have to start my day with what I'm giving back to myself to energize me to go on and be successful. And there's no wavering on it. It's every day.
I know you said you have a twin sister. Have you always been that way? Is this just naturally how you're wired? Is this a learned behavior, or did you ever a point in your life where you weren't that way as far as your morning?
My mornings have always been special to me. I would say only for the reason that podcasts have only become, more frequent and everyone's doing them probably in the past 5 to 6 years, that's been pretty frequent. Prior to that, working out has always been a part of my daily routine. That's always a given. I would say learning more, reevaluating myself, which is something that's really important that we all should do. I would always say I'd reevaluate myself. I couldn't wait for January 1 to come because it was the beginning of a new year. It was the beginning of a new start. And I'd reevaluate myself. Where do I need to be better? How do I need to improve? As a mother, as a wife, as a friend, as a business person, in all arenas, you need to evaluate yourself. And I would read self-help books. I would listen to certain things. So again, it's all about starting with yourself before you become a better you for any of your clients.
Okay, so that's our morning. So then walk us through the rest of the day.
The rest of the day, I'm bombarded with emails. So it's keeping up with emails. It's getting in front of clients that maybe I haven't spoken to. I'm following up. Can I call you back in a month? Can I call you back in 2 weeks? It's going through my folders, which is how I keep folders at my desk. And I also keep folders in my email. And it's following up with those clients, making dates and notes of when I need to reach out to them again. Or maybe it's a quiet day and I'm reaching out to a past client. Hope you're settled in the new house. How are things going? Hope you're enjoying it. So it's making small touches. The one thing that's really important for me is I like to stay in front of people, but I don't like to drive them crazy. There can be too many touches, and I'm the kind of person when I want information, I want it yesterday. So I like to provide that, but I also don't want to be driven crazy. So it's simply just can stay in front of me, but don't get in front of me monthly and maybe every 2 months, maybe it's every quarter.
So to do this kind of volume, there has to be a system around that. Is there anything specific as far as touch plans or like I'm a past client? How often am I hearing from you and what's the rhyme, rhythm, and reasons?
I would say postcards are a big touch for me. I'll do a 10,000 piece mailing often, especially in the first 6 months of the year. So that's a touch. In terms of past clients, it varies based on sometimes the relationship. I probably don't adhere to all the KW touch points. I do it in a way that I would want to be touched and in a way that has always worked for me. So I will do marketing through Facebook posts. I have my magazine. I have the postcards that I'll do pretty heavy in the first 6 months, and then I'll taper that down. And quite honestly, then it's to a certain point for me that I'm fortunate enough to field phone calls and to field emails of clients wanting to meet with me. So it's a balance between the two.
Nice. And is there a particular CRM you use Command, Follow Up Us, anything like that?
I don't do any of that.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly. We were just talking about that, the gal behind you, and I don't think I've done one of those for maybe 8 years, 9 years. I'd have to go in again and figure out how to do it. So the one thing that I was explaining is when I meet with a client, I will pull all the streets in that community. I will put that in front of them and I will print it in landscape form and I will show them what's active, what's pending, what's sold, and let them know what's going on in their neighborhood. I'll compare the homes and I'll say, here's bedroom, bath, TFSF, total finished square feet. That's how we're going to gauge this along with the other data on your home. And that's how we're going to determine the price of your home. So along with that, and maybe I'm trailing off a little bit, but I think so many people don't go to the listing appointment with data and information. And for some people that like data, I'll pull, Keller Williams used to have a data point page that they just stopped. And now you can go to SPAR and you can get it for every community. And it will show you year to year from like last year to this year, status on how many homes sold, median price range. That's something that I always bring to the listing appointment. And then I bring the showing report. So our Keller Williams office has a showing report. It's a 4-year graph that goes from January to December, and it shows people the activity throughout the year of when showings are going on and the busiest time of the year. So I show that data point to my clients, especially when they ask timing. I'll show them that the first 6 months are the busiest, although It shows we sell homes 12 months out of the year. If you want to get the most for your money, and if you want it to be the busiest time, then it's typically going to be February to June or March to June, depending on that season that we're having for weather. So I tell them that I follow that closely. And once I know that our spikes are hitting up, that's when we want to get on the market. And truthfully, right before that peak. Go ahead.
Questions during, or do you want to say that?
Yeah, no, please, fire away.
You had asked about her using CRM and you say you don't. So, maybe circle back to that for a second. So you do a 10,000 piece mailing for 6 months on, boom, that goes to everybody. How are you organizing all of your clients, your past clients and your leads if you're not using a CRM?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Probably a little bit old fashioned. So in mail, I have mailboxes, just little boxes with each client's name for each year. So I'll go back to each year, especially when I'm quiet, to see maybe who I need to touch again. But more than anything, especially in the first 6 months of the year, I'm just fielding phone calls and emails to meet with clients. I'm not reaching out as much as most people would think that I am.
So you're at that place in your career, people, you don't have to reach out to them, they reach out to you.
That's exactly right.
But I just want to point something out too, that you, like Perry, you said, as you drive through Woodbury, that you see so many of her signs.
Right.
So there's so much power in having that little farm or that one
It's
area.
huge.
You
It's
are
enormous.
not diluted. You're not in Burnsville. You're not.
Exactly.
So the power of that recognition in a neighborhood, I would tell every new agent, pick one and stick with it.
That's exactly what I would
One
say.
year, yeah.
That's, and you've got one of those questions when you're a new agent, what should you do? You need to understand that bread and butter is better than luxury. Everyone wants to get into luxury. You cannot live on luxury alone. You need to live on bread and butter, whether the bread and butter is 200 to 400 or 300 to 550. That's what sells all day long. And that's what you need to get into. So you need to, when you move into an area, you need to look at a community that's interesting, that's in a price point that is going to sell fairly quickly. You need to farm it. You need to live it. You need to breathe it. I don't care if you don't have a lot of money. Go to Kinko's, print something out, hand it to them, door knock, put things in mailboxes, mail it to them. Focus on a particular area. Once you get your first listing in that area or sale on the buyer side, you simply, you tell everyone, you share it with everyone, you work the open houses, and then they're going to see that your sign was down the street. And then the neighbor blocks down is going to call you and say, you must be the agent that's selling in this area. Can you meet with us? That's how it builds. It's just one step at a time. It's one sign at a time. You shouldn't overthink it.
When do you think you hit that point where you didn't feel like you had to always be the one reaching out and your phone's ringing up the first half of the year?
It does take time. I was fortunate because of the business I did in new construction for so long. I would say by year 2 to 3, that it started pretty quick. Yeah, it started pretty quick. First year was tough. And I remember meeting with the manager and she's like, you're not going to be at you're going to be at that lower split this year. And I'm like, really? I mean, I remember that hit me like a ton of bricks and I'm like, this can never happen to me again. So it changed pretty quickly.
Good.
Do you have a transaction coordinator besides the admin?
So my assistant, we parted ways a few months ago after 8 years. And I now have a transaction coordinator and just a transaction coordinator. They really customized what I needed to earn my business. So there's a couple little things that I do that I didn't have to do before, but there's a lot of value in working with them. And I'm pretty pleased with that process right now. So I'll continue that.
Before, when you had the admin, did you have a transaction coordinator?
No,
Just one person.
just one
So it
person.
was just you and then you hired that.
Yep, and just the assistant. That was it.
As far as like the postcards to 10,000 or whatever, is there a service you recommend that you use or?
So I put everything together. So
Hands-on.
I'm very hands-on. So I'll put together, I have a number of cards that I've used over the years. Sometimes I'll recreate and then I'll put things together. And then I have a designer that my husband, of course, has referred me to. And then she'll just mock it up. Or I'll say, here are two past ones, let's merge these. Here's a past one I did a couple years ago. Let's use this. Let's put in a whole new grouping of homes. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. You don't have to overthink it. Less is more. So it's just statement pieces that you need that tell the story. So very hands-on. I do all that.
I just want to say, if anyone's thinking of doing more postcards or anything, I think tpmco.com is great, especially with command. If you go into design, you can drop in like a photo for the front, save it, put it into tpmco. It's super easy, and they always like pump them out pretty fast and everything. So,
Thank you. Let's talk about the market of the moment right now. What's your interpretation of the market? What do you share with clients? And what are you doing to succeed?
I'm 54, so I look at this market and we've been spoiled for a really long time at 3%. My first home 33 years ago was 10.5, second home 9, third home 8.5. So I look at this and I say, you guys, we've been spoiled. I understand it's hard. I know that 7% sounds like a lot, but when you look through time, it's not. So that's one thing that I share with all my clients, and I let them know rates are going to come down again and you can refi. Or you can do a 2-1 buy down. I know that we talked about that. So it's about being educated. The other thing that I think is essential that the builders have done an amazing job at doing is buying down interest rates. And that's something that I'm sharing with my sellers. They understand it. It makes sense. At the end of the day, 10 or 20,000 might not buy down a lot, but it's something in attracting a buyer to come into that home and indicating whether we market it in remarks or after every showing, I simply say, how did the home work? This is something that we are not maybe advertising. It's kind of something private that we're sharing on a case-by-case basis, but the seller is willing to give $20,000 towards closing costs, a buy-down rate, whatever they need to make this happen. So that's something that every client of mine is on board with and needs to be.
Doing the amount of business you're doing, and again, as I understand, it's just have you ever had a buyer's agent? Do you utilize showing agents? Have you ever, through your years, built a team and then just decided, hey, I just want it to be me? Walk us through that.
So there's been a couple times, maybe over the past few years, where there's another colleague of mine. I have a handful of colleagues that will host my open homes. I won't do that anymore. And a couple of them that I really trust that I have said once or twice a year, can you show this for me? I can't be in 2 places at once. No, I do not have a buyer's agent. When people hire me, they get me, and I pride myself on that. I understand what they're looking for and my knowledge, so I'm here to give that to them. I've never been a team. I've been asked that a lot. I do not want to babysit. I do not want to micromanage. I just want to do the best I can and work directly with the client. At the end of the day, I feel like if you can do the best job you can, you might not need a team member or 2 to get your volume up. And then you have to spend time micromanaging and training. And for some, that's fine. For me, it doesn't work.
So what do you do? You have kids? Do you have grandkids?
No, I can't wait. My daughter's engaged. So my daughter's 26 and my son is 22 and Amari's finally engaged.
So what do you do when there is just one of you, and I know some of you in the room have dealt with the same thing? How do you set client expectations to let them know you're not necessarily available 24/7?
A little bit of a downfall. As I age, I've gotten better. I'm pretty available at all times. So people are constantly texting and emailing me, and I'll get back to them right away. I'll always indicate to them, if you don't hear from me, it's because I'm in a meeting like I am right now. The minute I'm out of that meeting, I'm going to take a look at who I need to contact. And text is typically best for me. In terms of meetings, that's the great thing about this business. If someone wants to meet and I've got something planned that day, or I'm going away, or I'm going to spend time with my kids, I simply say, here are the 3 times I'm available this week. Let me know which is best. If none of these work, then let's circle back and we'll figure out a time that works. So I really drive my own schedule. I've really become selfish and not making it work for the client. It has to work for me first. You have to be selfish sometimes.
What do you do to and again, when we're working this much and you're super busy, what do you do to recharge? What do you do on the personal side that gives you energy, and what are you passionate about?
I swim in the river. I now live on the river. I built in Afton, and boating and swimming are my passion. It's my peace and my serenity and my calm, my happy place. It's giving back to me, whatever that looks like, whether it's for a walk, working out, swimming, being with nature. It's age is wisdom, you guys. And if you're not near my age, you might not get it yet, but you'll get there, and it's everything. I love this stage more than any other stage of my life.
Wow. We're exactly halfway through. What questions do you have? Yes, sir.
So, you have a transaction coordinator right now. You do not have an assistant. Do you plan on getting an assistant again, or do you like how this is working for you?
I like how this is working. Not needed. Yeah, a lot of drama sometimes. I walked away from drama. It's good.
And is that did you hire a company, or you hired someone individually who works directly just for you?
I hired a company, TC Coordinators. I got from Cindy Freud, and I'm
Nice.
so happy.
Alex Marcellet and the crew?
Yes, Alex, exactly.
Amy's
Terrific.
phenomenal there.
I work with Samantha, and she's terrific. So it's interesting. I learned that everything can be done by a transaction coordinator. And what's great about that, honestly, is you only have to pay them when you have a deal. And I don't have to pay health insurance. I don't have to pay bonuses. I don't have to pay end of year IRA distribution. None of it. I simply pay them on the job that's needed. And they did a phenomenal job at customizing it to my needs. I pushed them, but they did it, and I'm grateful for it.
So your cost of sale goes up a little bit, per transaction, but your overall expenses, which again, I'm betting you're tracking your numbers pretty closely,
I'll be ahead.
your net at the end of the year will be significantly higher.
Yes, and I consulted with my accountant about this, as I do everything when I make that type of business decision, to determine how does that look at the end of the year for me. And it's definitely beneficial. Not that I would leverage myself to a point of being uncomfortable for the money, because it's not important. It's about being comfortable. But I found out pretty quickly that that's all that's needed for me.
Great question. What else? Paige.
You mentioned this is like your favorite phase of life you've been in. What would you have told your like younger agent self that you know now?
Yeah, good question. Stay calm. Stay calm. Breathe. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, probably first and foremost. I really, really ran myself ragged. And it did a number on me for a while. I really did. And to the point that I was just angry with the business. So it's really about taking care of yourself first and foremost.
Go ahead, Pam, and then Maria.
Do you host client events, and is there anything else that you do to special that really makes the experience working with you extraordinary?
Can you repeat the question for the people on Zoom, please?
Sure.
You guys up there, just so that they can.
So do I host client events or do anything special? Unfortunately, I do not. I think unfortunately, I don't know. I do not. I'm very greedy with my time. So time is everything, and you can't buy it. So I service them in the best way that I know how. And I will follow up with them. I will send them a gift. But I don't usually interact any other way outside of that business transaction. Mm-hmm.
Question online, Maria?
Yeah, Chris Ross is asking, when you said you would sometimes have colleagues host open houses for you, I believe you said you wouldn't be doing that anymore. What caused that change?
I don't need it anymore. They're not valuable enough for me. If it was valuable enough for me, I would continue to do it. I think there are definitely times that I think for someone that doesn't have the level of business I do, it's a great time to meet people out there. Hopefully you'll sell my listing, which has happened recently, or many of the people that have hosted for me have also gotten clients off that. There's one that just sold one of my listings, and now they're listing that client's home. That's on them, and that's a great opportunity. It's not where I'm going to spend my time any longer.
Julie.
If you like to boat and swim, what do you do in the winter months?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Now that we live in Afton and we've had that property for a little bit, I read, I'll be outside. We also burn a lot and we'll have fires for like 6 hours and just burn and kind of pick up things around the yard. And travel. Travel's another big one for me. I love to travel, see new places. So.
Where would you recommend we go?
Favorite, Monaco, the south of France. Nothing better. Love, 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 love. Yeah, great spot.
So when you, how do you handle business when you are gone, and how do you shut it up? Do you, someone in the office takes over, or was that look like?
I've learned that I will send an email out to all my clients indicating to them that I'm gone from this time to this time. If they have a title question, then reach out to the title company. If it's a contract question or a signing, reach out to my assistant. I will check my phone a couple times a day. I will make myself available for an emergency. Otherwise, we'll handle it when I get back. I try to give myself space. I really do. And people, I think, respect that and appreciate that and understand and typically say, have a great time.
So you mentioned reading do you read, or is it Audible? And what is the book you've given out the most as a gift, and why?
Tuesdays with Maury. I love it. I love that book. I've read it many a time. Untamed is a newer book that I've read and I've given to friends, and I love that as well. Tuesdays with Maury is something that is so inspirational and really teaches you the most important things in life, and love and relationships, and to take time and appreciate other people and appreciate what you have.
And do you like the hardcover, or is it Audible or Kindle?
Hardcover, always hardcover. I've done Audible. I can't get into the book. I need to touch it. I need to turn the pages. I need to feel it.
Nice. Tuesdays with Maury. There you go.
Yes. And Untamed's a good one as well. Untamed is a phenomenal book to know that there are no rules, whether it's for a woman or for a man. Do whatever you want. Color your hair purple. Eat whatever you want if that was what makes you happy. It's whatever makes you happy. There are no rules anymore, and you don't have to live by what the world says is normal, or the way you should be, or the way you should act, or what you should say. It gives you full autonomy to be your true self.
So we've been licensed how long? How many years?
30 years.
30 years. So if we move to a new state, you got your real estate license, you had $1,000 to build your business, what would you do?
I'd hone in on probably the community with which I live, and I would market to that community. Whether you do door knocking, you do handouts, postcards, whoever is in your office that is selling within that community or a surrounding community, you reach out to that agent. You host their open houses. Here's something that many agents do not do, which is really shocking to me. When I first started, Karen Housley was a big agent in our office. And if she had a talk, if she said something, I was there. I watched her. I looked at everything that she did, and she marketed the way that I'm marketing now. And in the past month, I've had 2 new agents call me. Say, can I take you out to coffee? You're never going to go out to coffee with me, but I'm going to give you 15 minutes on the phone, because I would hope that someone would have done that for me. And both of them were great. One gentleman was unbelievably insightful in his questions. He was so smart. It was absolutely impressive. And I said, bravo to you. And I was in the car. I was going from meeting to meeting, and I took the time. And I think any agent, if there's someone that you admire or want to learn more about, reach out to them. Be brave and understand where they started, what they're doing, or how can you help them in a way to make their business better, whether it's open houses, shadow them, whatever it is. Be a part of someone that's successful. It's who you surround yourself with and who you learn from.
Well, and I would add that that's not only advice for young or new agents. That's for any agent at any phase in their career.
I agree. So Cindy and Ann, who I call my dream team, and these are my gals, we started meeting 4 years ago.
At least, I think.
Before COVID. Well,
Yeah, well before COVID. And I mean, what two better top agents to learn from? And when we first got together, we're like, okay, what does everyone do? And
Never met before.
never, you and I met once before, but outside of that, we had never met Ann. And we got together and we learned from each other, and it was amazing. From, how do we approach clients? Listing appointments. What do we do before and after? What does their daily routine look like? Everything you can imagine, we shared with one another. We're not competitive with one another. We're proud of one another. We're happy for one another. We cheer one another on. If there's something going on with a client that we have and they're driving us crazy or we don't know how to navigate it, we'll text each other. What would you do in this situation? So we're always going to each other and learning. The relationship that we built has been amazing. I consider these two family and sisters. So I'm grateful for that. And everyone should do something like that.
How did you guys create that group? What prompted it? How did you pick each other? What does that look like? Because I think that's a space in our business that no one really feels like they have, and everyone kind of is looking for.
Well, Ann and I, I had always heard about. Hi, by the way.
Future Meg Agent interview coming up here. Yeah, we're getting on the calendar for 2024.
I had always heard about Ann Schaefer. Just because who hasn't heard of the great Ann Schaefer?
That OC Dino.
So, for years, I thought, I've got to reach out to her. And one day I said, geez, Jessica. So I think I just called you.
So, yeah, we just went ahead and lunch.
And
3 blocks
You and
apart,
I
by
think
the
we're
way.
going to meet, and you said, I'm going to invite Ann. I said,
Yes.
terrific.
Yeah, and we realized at lunch, we went out to St. Genevieve one day. We walked in wearing the same pants.
And we brought all our numbers,
We
like,
brought our numbers.
without saying to each other, bring your stuff. Like,
No.
Brought everything.
nobody does that. Nobody feels.
You
And
and
let's see what we do and what we have in common. Yeah.
because we're
cool.
not competitors at all, totally different farms. And then you and I were on a panel together
Right.
in Woodbury.
Yep.
Had never met. And I thought, oh my God, all this knowledge.
Right.
Why are we operating in silos?
Yeah.
And the three,
So we brought everything together. I mean, down from what are the standard templated emails that we use for clients, for buyers, for sellers? There is nothing that we haven't shared or discussed.
share everything,
Everything. Open book.
open book.
And everyone should rely on other people to do that. I mean, we learn from each other.
And I would say being very vulnerable too.
Yes.
That maybe you might not do with someone in your own, farm
Yeah.
or whatever, because you don't necessarily want to expose. Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
because the three of us don't compete at
Exactly.
all.
It works out
totally
beautifully.
Areas.
And we've referred
So
clients
we
to
can
one
take
another.
Referral too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've referred Ann, Ann's referred to me. These two have referred back and forth. So it's been a good referral from, one side of town or city to suburb and another.
Very safe.
Yes, very safe.
Your tribe matters.
Yes.
Who you're spending time with
Essential.
matters.
And we hold each other accountable too. I mean, I don't want to go to them and have them say, how's your year? And I say, oh my God. But if it is, oh my God, I know that they're going to help encourage me or help me get out of the rut or whatever.
Exactly.
But that's advice for any agent at any phase in their career. Don't think that because you've been doing it for 20 or 30 years that you know everything, because you do not.
We do not. We learn daily. I don't care how old you are. We learn daily.
And once you stop asking questions,
And
it's
being curious, it is over. You have to learn. You have to be open-minded.
Love it. Paige.
What is the biggest learning curve you've had or obstacle that you feel like, I mean, it's been a long career, but what's that kind of this phase was hard, or from going from point A to point B was a challenge to?
But the biggest challenge that I had was going from new construction to the existing market. And it was just navigating the existing market. And what does that look like? And gaining as much information as I could. I mean, it's really, really different. I think it's really important for a lot of agents, though. They sell homes, but do they know how a home is built? When I first started new construction, I remember with Petunia Homes, I went out with Carrie, the head superintendent, one of the owners, and I went on site and I had a notebook. I said, tell me what nails you use. What I-joists are we using? What are we using for, who are we using for HVAC? Who are we using for shingles? So when I sold their homes, I could speak to that from the ground up, why we were better than anyone else. When I went, how that helped me in the existing market is when I go into a home, I'm going to go in, you're going to get me for an hour, and likely we will never see each other again. So I will go in for an hour, I will walk through the home, and I told these guys that the other day, and I will write down the notes of everything that I know is going to be needed on the MLS and for marketing. So I'll go through and I'll see, knock down ceiling. I'll write down stainless steel appliances, wood floors, everything that I know that I need for my marketing that's going to set them apart from anyone else. And so I really am grateful for that new construction, but that's some information that as an existing agent, you need to learn and understand. You're not just selling the house, what's inside that box, and understand what's inside that box so you know how to market it different than any other home down the street.
Can I interject something?
Please.
I think you make a very good point, Kim. You are not there to be their friend.
No.
You're not asking to go out for happy hour and
You don't know their kid's name.
you don't care.
I don't know who they are when I walk in that door. I never Google them. It doesn't matter to me. I've never, ever Googled a client. I don't care. I'm there to do my job. I'm there to sell their home. I'm there to give them the knowledge and the information, how we're going to do that best. And then I'm out. And then I just facilitate it with my stager, my photographer, and everything else that I surround myself with. My team of people that make me who I am today.
I would say that efficiency too really matters.
Efficiency is
About
everything.
this kind of volume. You can't
Yes.
be all the things. You
No,
know,
I'm
they
not
don't
there
want
for
you
a
to be-
photo shoot. I'm not there for staging. In the beginning, I felt like I needed to be part of that
Yeah.
and quickly realized I don't have the time for that. If I hire a good stager, if I hire a good photographer, that's on them and I trust them completely. So you need to surround yourself by people that you can trust and that you can count on. I'm in one time and that's it.
Never see me again.
Yeah.
They'll hear from you, but they're not gonna.
They're gonna hear from me, but there's no reason for us to interface again. There's just not. I can't get through that kind of volume and do it.
So I'm your buyer that, so average sales price, 587. I looked up your stats. So I'm your $600,000 buyer in Woodbury, but I want to look at 28 homes. Are you impatient? Like, how do you deal with that? Are you coaching them on the front end?
Oh, we're gonna define that. We're gonna narrow it down because we're not gonna look at 28. So it's really important. People don't understand what do they really want in a home? And if they want, is it a 3-car garage? We're not going to back up to a road. We're probably not going to back up to power lines. If there's something that they send me and I see red flags, I'll say, if you want to see it, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you all the reasons maybe why we shouldn't, or maybe why it's going to be an issue on resale. When I sell you a home, I want to know that you can call me in 5 years and I'm going to say, we made the best investment. You're hiring me for a reason.
Mhm.
So if you're showing me a home, I'm going to say, I can already tell it's in rough shape based on agent remarks or based on the photos. Let's look at the best of 15. Let's look at maybe 4 or 6. And there's no reason to look at the B and C homes. We only want to look at the A homes. So I will define it in several different areas of criteria or educate them on the phone or via email before we walk out that door. I don't have time, nor do they have time. No one has time to just go look at 15 homes at random. If you did the research enough up front, you're going to be able to alleviate 7 of half those homes. And you got to ask the right questions.
When you do that buyer consultation, is that because you've done it forever, or do you have a checklist to follow? Like, is it the same exact meeting every time so you have it clear in what they want?
I'll ask the questions up front. What are you looking for? And then I'll do an auto email for them. So whatever their criteria is, that gets sent to them directly. If there's a home that looks interesting, send it to me. We'll talk about it before we go see it. And then, we'll evaluate that. So we'll go out maybe on 3 or 4 homes in the beginning. And if hopefully it's a good fit, if something isn't, I listen to them. I walk through it with them. I point things out. So then I'm learning what they like and don't like. That really helps to shorten, again, the amount of homes that we're going to see, because I've learned from that first day out what they like and what they don't like. It's just listening. It's understanding.
Oh, can I go quick? You don't copy yourself on your clients' custom searches.
97% of the time, no. Yeah, yeah.
Logging myself down.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be getting 150 emails a day. I would be insane. So no, if it's an older buyer, then sometimes I will. And I'll say, hey, something came up that I think is going to be a really good fit for you. So you kind of have to know your client a little bit. I don't hold hands too much with people, but there are a few that sometimes you just need to.
What do you put them in? Do you use just the MLS? Do you use the KW app? Do you use?
Just the MLS. Yep, I'm a little old fashioned that way, so I'll just break down their criteria. I always say, let's make it as broad as we can. Let's not narrow it down too much, because then we're not going to maybe see that special home, that a gem that maybe we would have missed. So I make it fairly broad, obviously price point being essential. And then how many bedrooms, how many bath, garage, and then community. That's it.
Then you don't look at the back end of like, okay, they've saved these properties, because you can't, I don't use the MLS, so I don't know.
No, I know what you mean, the reverse prospecting. No, I don't. I wait till they reach out to me, or if I think there's something really good, because I'll have auto emails that just go to me for informational purposes at certain price points. If there's something I see, I'll reach out and say, I think this is a good one. But more times than not, I'm waiting for them to get back to me on what is interesting to them.
Julie, then I have a question.
For your listings, you were talking about the staging. Do all of your clients do staging? And if they're not interested, how do you get them?
I don't give them a choice. So it's a service I provide, and you have to get to that point. So I have a stager, and I have a big rental unit. So I have a lot of accessories there. So I tell them that they're always going to have free staging. She's going to come out, she'll meet with you for 60 to 90 minutes. She'll tell you what you need to move, what you need to take out, and then she will identify at that point what she needs to bring in from my warehouse. It's a service I provide. There's no cost to you. I tell everyone that. Whether it's a few vignettes in the kitchen, towels, artwork, flowers, something in the bathrooms, everyone has to be staged. And for anyone that thinks you don't need staging, you're wrong. You have to be staged. It's essential.
The house we bought looked magnificent.
Oh, good.
This may sound like a smart aleck question, but we're all looking at you, and you just eat, sleep, and breathe success. Or, every one of us in the room is looking up to you like, man, she's got it all together. I'm guessing there are some failures along the way that have helped you become who you are today. How has failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure over the years?
The one area that I felt I failed a client, I get testimonials from Zillow, and, we learn from the good, bad, and the ugly, right? And I got a number 4 star. It wasn't a 5-star, and I was devastated by that. And I reached out and I asked her why. And she said, Kim, you were so good up front before we listed, why we listed, but then we sold. And I remember the year, and it was a busy year, no excuse, but we didn't hear from you after. And I failed her, and I never did that again. So that was a huge touch point for me. Even if it's a small little text and not a phone call. Hey, it's been a week now. I hope you're settling in nicely, and hope you guys are unpacked. Anything, just a simple touch. That was a huge learning curve for me.
You're incredibly sure of yourself, which is incredible. As in 30 years in the business, Instagram and Zooms and all of the things, is there ever a time where you questioned, maybe I need to be leaning into this new thing and doing it different than how I'm doing it now, or have ventured down those paths, had stuff not work out, or is this just how you are?
This is just how I am. I'll do a Facebook post. I only look at Instagram. I don't post anything. Sometimes I think it just simplicity, less is more, and just find out your niche areas that you're getting the greatest exposure, and keep it simple. Confidence is everything. Confidence is everything when you walk in that front door, when you meet with that client. Know your product, know your community. Let them know that you're the professional, and if you are well-rounded enough to have all that information, then they're going to trust you. If they don't trust you, you're never going to get the deal. So.
This may answer itself, but since you do focus mainly on the community in which you live, do you not really find yourself listing different animals within?
And I will. Referrals I'll usually do. Every once in a while I'll list something, on the north side, the east side, the south side. I would say maybe that's a very small % of my business. But on the east side, it's Woodbury, it's Stillwater, it's Lake Elmo, it's Cottage Grove. It's anything on the east side that I'm happy to do. I would say simply because I grew up in Woodbury and had lived there prior to moving to Afton, I would say probably, 70-80% of my business is in Woodbury, and I market it and I farm it hard. But anything on the east side, I will certainly sell to. And I always say to people, I sell in all price points. So if you have a $250,000 townhouse, call me because I'm going to sell it for you. If you have $1.2 million home or a $2 million and everywhere in between, my business is to help people, and I prefer doing sometimes more of the bread and butter than just the high end alone. You can't start at the high end. You've got to work your way up because you need to understand the home.
And follow up to that, if something comes across your plate through a referral, an estate situation of one of the repeat clients or from their parents or something, and it, okay, this is like personal experience I'm sharing actually, it's like, if it's out of your comfort zone, are you diving in, figuring it out, enlisting who you need to and going whole hog, or do you refer?
I take
You
everything.
odd one out. You take everything.
I take everything, yeah. And I just had that happen where a past client that I worked with on a couple different transactions, and unfortunately his mother had to go into a nursing home, and she had a property actually in Hastings, a townhome, and listed it. So whatever it takes to get the job done, there's I don't think there's anything there's probably one property in Minneapolis that I just didn't pursue it any further. It was a liability. It was a liability. Outside of that, no, I'm happy to help everyone.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
How often do you fire your clients?
I've wanted to on a couple occasions. I never have, but boy, have I wanted to. Come really close, really close. Sometimes you just have to say, you know what, you hired me for a reason and you need to trust me. Or, I know that you have a lot of questions, but, we need to relax. So sometimes you just have to have a heart-to-heart with your client. But if something came up in the future and it was just draining me too much, it's just not worth it. The money isn't worth it if it's draining you too much and bringing you down.
What's your biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge every year is trying to stay number one.
So we're in goal setting, business planning season. How do you measure that? Just by staying number one, you set goals, units, volume, income? Like, what is your big pillars as far as goals? I mean, how do you set them?
It's pretty simple. I just go into every year. It's pretty darn simple. I don't write it down. I go into every year just saying, I'm going to give it 150%. I know that at the end of the year, November, December, I'm going to get all my marketing set up so it starts flushing out in January. And I just work on my marketing. And I know every year that's usually going to produce a certain volume. And I keep up with my daily routine. I keep up with what I believe I do best, how I serve myself, how I serve clients. And you don't need to overthink it. I really just say you don't need to overthink it. You just need to know what you do and do it and move on.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm just taking all this in and processing it and probably projecting a little too, but you really strike me as somebody who actually has mastered how to show up consistently.
Thank you. That's very kind.
I'm guessing that's probably.
It really is. It's showing up for
You're talking
yourself
about
and your
the
clients.
energy and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and yeah.
You need to show up the minute you get out of bed every day, and you need to show up for yourself first, and then you can show up for your clients, and you just make it happen. It's grit. It's
I
being
just don't
driven.
think a lot of people think about that all the time either. I mean, it's when you say you're not overthinking it,
You don't have to.
that's a huge domino, right?
Yeah, it is. It's just, it's the simple things. How do you sell a home? Well, you got to talk to a client. You have to understand the product that you're selling. Be knowledgeable about that. Go through a couple listing appointments. Figure out what feels the most comfortable, what feels best. What's the client looking for? At the end of that meeting, look at them and say, is there anything I didn't provide that you would have expected out of today's meeting? If there is, don't ever forget it. You want them to say, no, you actually did an amazing job and you covered more than we thought we covered today. That's how you want to end every meeting. So work to that goal.
Nice. I'm going to wrap up with two questions. Have any of you guys listened to Jason Abrams' MREA podcast, his new podcast? Okay, so I didn't prep you for this, and you'll be fine. So he ends each podcast with a quick speed round. So I'm gonna ask you 3 quick things. Favorite food you have at home?
Favorite food I have at home, raspberries.
Raspberry. Okay, there you go. Favorite restaurant you'd recommend?
Ciao Bella lately I've been going to. Oh, no, RH really. RH is one of my favorite. We're going there today. Those 2.
There you go. And then, do you have a favorite sound?
Yes, and I listen to it every night when I go to bed. It's water. It's on one of those apps. And it's the sound of water. And I listen to it every night.
Love it.
Can I state one of my pet peeves?
Yes.
Huge, huge, huge. If you show my home or any home as a courtesy to that seller and that agent, you better send feedback that day because I will hunt you down. I'll hunt everyone down. It's professional courtesy. I don't care how busy. If I show 15 homes in a day, you're getting it that day because that seller is sitting by the phone, their computer, wondering, have I been selected today? Did they choose me today? And if not, why? And then let's learn from that. The people that don't do that, they show their true colors to me right away. Right away.
Is there anything we didn't ask you or any parting advice and or thoughts? Besides leaving feedback.
Knowing contracts definitely was number 1.
We're gonna organize you as well.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. We talked about reaching out to an agent that you aspire to, my pet peeve. Here's the other thing. You know, not all the answers are in books. Not all the answers are in business books. There's a lot of areas to find them. As I mentioned before, knowledge is power. Where are you going to find that knowledge? Is it through someone else in your office? Is it through a podcast? Is it through someone on YouTube? Where are you going to find it? Figure out what you're lacking and get better at it quickly.
There we go. Let's give a round of applause. Okay, need to go get to work. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Next month, December 14th, we're still working on our guests. Appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.